In our last video, we explored Vault 21, here on the Strip. There we met Sarah Weintraub, the proprietor of the Vault 21 Hotel and Casino and former Vault resident there. While reading her private terminal, we learned of her brother Sheldon. She and her brother had been exchanging entramails, and we learned that they missed each other dearly. But where exactly did Sheldon Weintraub go? To find out, we take a short trip south of Vault 21. There we find a large brick building called Michelangelo's Sign Shop. Well, Michelangelo must have made this sign if he makes signs for the Strip, so let's wait until night to see this neon sign in all of its splendor. Ooh. Okay, Michelangelo, you're a talented man. To explore Michelangelo's workshop, we walk to the southern end of this building, right up against the border between the Strip and Freeside. Inside, we find a large lobby, but we can't loot the containers without stealing because they're all set to owned. Interestingly, we see a big placard on the wall, HNH Tool Company. Oh, so this must have been a corporate office or workshop for the HNH Tool Company. We learned in my video on the HNH Tool Company, which you can watch here, that the H&H in HNH Tool stood for House and House. It was the tool company that Robert House's father had founded and left to his two sons. Robert House was supposed to take it over with his brother, but his brother ended up edging him out. In an act of revenge, Robert House became a successful businessman in his own right, as we all know, founding a personal terminal company and a robotics company. And with the wealth that he amassed, he eventually bought the H&H Tool Company, his father's legacy, from his brother. I suppose then it's no wonder that we find another workshop belonging to the H&H Tool Company here on the Strip, and that it is preserved. And today it's used to repair and make the neon signs here in New Vegas. Upon entering the factory floor, we find a vaulted, sprawling industrial chamber. Turning right, we pass a broken Nuka-Cola neon sign, and we can head up a ramp into a room to the east. This turns north past a bunch of machinery. We see a path to a doorway to the north, and it continues back out to the workshop to the west. Here we find a Cup of Joe sign. This seems strangely out of place because we all know that a Cup of Joe is a local coffee shop franchise in the DC area. We found these in Fallout 3, in the ruins of the Capital Wasteland. It seems unlikely to me that such a small local franchise like a Cup of Joe would have branches all the way out in Nevada. So how did this sign get here? Heading down to the factory floor, we find a big pile of junked, ruined neon signs to the west. We remember seeing signs like these inside and outside the ruins of Zapp's neon signs, which we find in the ruins of Vegas, close to the entrance to Vault 3. I explored that location in my video on Lily, which you can watch here. 200 years later, we find hundreds of these ruined signs littering Zapp's neon signs, and it's clear that from this evidence, Michelangelo has taken many of those signs into his workshop to scavenge for supplies. It looks like he's recycling some of Zapp's signs to make his new ones. There's a great deal of machinery in the middle of this factory floor, and we can reach it by climbing up a staircase to the southwest. This leads to a floating pod within which we find a bunch of consoles. There's a yellow light switch on the wall, which controls the light, and then an electrical switch next to it, which I don't know what this does. I flipped it a couple of times, but nothing really happened. The pod exits to a catwalk that we can follow to the north. If we follow it all the way to the end, we see a big Smitty's sign, and the path turns right, leading back down to that A Cup of Joe sign we saw earlier. So instead we can turn around to follow the catwalk east up some stairs where we find an assistant. Oh, hello there.
Excuse me, but I'm busy.
Oh, okay, well she's too busy to talk. Fine. Continuing east down the catwalk, we find a split that goes north and south. To the south, we find a workbench, and then an elevator platform sort of thing. I imagine that Michelangelo will place his big signs on this platform, which he can then move up and down, and then walk all around it using this scaffolding to put his finishing touches on just the right areas. Heading north, we find another workbench up here, upon which we see a variety of light bulbs in different sizes. We don't usually find these on workbenches. Sadly, we can't loot any of them. That's it for the sprawling scaffolding. Now we'll explore the rooms to the north. Jumping down and heading through the big door next to the A Cup of Joe sign, we'll find ourselves in a large room. There's a door to the right. This leads back out to that hallway where we saw those big machines upon first entering. North of here, we see more ruined signs, including a couple of Sunset Sarsaparilla neon signs, and an Everett's building and garden supplies. This sign was referenced in a terminal we found at Zapp's neon signs. We can open a door to the west, which leads to a living area. Let's finish exploring this large room. Turning south, we find another woman in a wine-colored utility outfit leaning against the wall. Her name is Kate.
Hi, what can I do for you?
What is this place?
You saw our front sign, didn't you? This is where all the beautiful signs of the Strip become a reality. It all comes from Michelangelo's imagination. We do a little work here and there too, sure, but he's the real artist.
Who is Michelangelo?
He's the reason the Strip shines like a star at night. Mike's imagined and built every sign, billboard, and light you'll see around here.
Where can I find Michelangelo?
Check out the back of the shop. He's usually working there.
How long have you been working here, Kate?
I've been here over a year now, though I'm not one to get tired for long. I plan to roam the wasteland once I'm ready. The people need light and kindness. There's too much fear and pain out there already.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Well, isn't that nice? I think I know a nice fella named O'Hanrahan of the Misfits whom Kate would probably love to meet. Heading west, we find a lot of workbenches and various machinery that we can't interact with. Another big stack of Zapp signs to the northeast, including a cornucopia fresh, which is a grocer, again from the Capital Wasteland. I'm very confused how this sign could have gotten to Nevada. To the west, we find more signs, and then on a table, a schematics for billboard. Now, even though we can steal this item, it doesn't do anything. It is a schematics, but if we steal it, we don't find any new options in our workbench. So this is a non-functional item. We could really only steal it if we wanted to use it as a decoration in our player home. Interestingly, even though this is marked as schematics for a billboard, the image we see depicted on the schematics is that of a carousel. The bottom image is a cutaway, and we can clearly see the little horses on the poles of the carousel, and the top image is the exterior. Strange indeed. Well, that leaves one place yet to explore. Turning around, we can head back to the hallway near to the Sunset Sarsaparilla neon signs and open the door to the west. We find ourselves in the private living quarters, apparently of Michelangelo. There's a bathroom with nothing really of interest. He's got a bathtub behind a privacy screen, and that's about it. Heading back out, we can turn northeast to his primary living quarters, and we find him lying asleep on his bed, which is perfectly natural as we are here in the middle of night. Next to his bed is a terminal on a table. Since this is private, we do lose karma by reading it. On the terminal, we find one entry: Sheldon Weintraub's mail. So Michelangelo is not his real name. He's really Sheldon Weintraub, Sarah Weintraub's brother. And he's right next door? In their emails to each other, they talked about how much they missed each other and they haven't seen each other in so long, but they are literally next door to each other. Michelangelo's is the building just south of Vault 21. Why don't they see each other more often? On his terminal, we see all of the same intramails we read on Sarah Weintraub's terminal in my Vault 21 video, so I'm not going to read them again here. We do find one new item, upcoming billboard requirements, but when we try to access it, we get a notification, mail message loaded, but we don't get to read what it was. I'm assuming that by tagging this option, it loads the requirements onto Sheldon's Pip-Boy. As a former Vault dweller, he is of course wearing one. When done snooping around in his terminal, we can wake up Michelangelo, aka Sheldon Weintraub.
Oh, hello, I am Michelangelo. How can I... wait. Are you here to deliver more billboard requests? Please tell me you're not a messenger on behalf of Mr. House.
Now, as we learned from his private letter to his sister, Michelangelo is a sensitive soul. As such, he's easily intimidated. And during this conversation, we find half a dozen opportunities to bully this guy, to extort him for money, and even to rough him up. All of these options lead to the same dialogue tree, so I'm only going to read one of them. If we want to bully this poor guy, we can pass a 40 speech check to lie and say, "Of course I act on behalf of Mr. House. Why else would I be here?"
I am sorry. Meant no offense. The billboards are not ready yet. Please, I need more time, more materials.
Your failure would not amuse Mr. House, unless I'm persuaded otherwise.
You've made your point. What would it take to convince you to keep silent until I manage to finish Mr. House's requests?
Have you seen the cost of pliers, duct tape, and saws lately? 300 caps.
Yeah, I imagine that it takes a lot to fill the void of such a bottomless soul. Take the caps and leave me to my sorrows.
Instead of taking the money, we can turn violent and say, "Oh, so you've got lots of caps on you? Then I guess I can just beat them out of you."
What? No, please. Here, take the caps, but please don't hurt me.
Groveling brings out the worst in me. I'm going to enjoy this.
Ah! Help!
With that, he runs...
And then...
Jeez. Cass! Calm down, hon. I wanted to see him run around a bit, not kill him immediately. Well, if we kill poor Sheldon Weintraub, we fail the quest. Classic inspiration. Instead of killing him, but if we still want his money, we can instead say, "That's a very inspired choice, Mickey."
Now that you have all you care for, please, leave and don't come back.
However, if we choose to bully money out of this guy, he shuts down. Whenever we try to talk with him, he tells us to leave, and we can't get his quest. However, earlier on in our bullying of Michelangelo, we find multiple opportunities to tell him that we're kidding. Relax, Mike, I was just kidding. What's all this fretting about Mr. House?
You were? Really? Okay, for a moment I thought you were going to tighten my screws. Like everyone else around here.
Oh, no, I'm not here for anything like that. Who exactly are you, Michael?
That's great to hear. Really great. I'm Sheldon from Vault 21, although here I go by my artistic name, Michelangelo. So what brings you here?
Why are you so jittery about Mr. House?
Because spending myself to the edge of artistic oblivion for Mr. House sums up my existence since I had to leave Vault 21. That's why.
You lived in Vault 21? Tell me about that.
Most people don't understand what it means to grow up in a vault. Its corridors, its walls, radiate a warmth that feels safe, honest. But here, everything is huge and threatening. It's so empty that I think one of these days I'll just snap.
Hey, do you know Doc Mitchell?
You mean Mitch? Oh, it's been ages since I've heard the name. My sister and I used to call him Mole Butt. Don't ask. That was a long time ago. Before we exchanged the warmth of our home for the thin air of the wasteland.
You seem to dread hearing about Mr. House's requests. What's the problem?
It's this place. My inspiration ebbs and I don't know how to stop it. Oh, I can't feel the warmth anymore.
So why don't you pack up and return to Vault 21?
Wouldn't that be great? No, Mr. House filled it with concrete. Only a few rooms and halls remain. My sister was able to turn them into a hotel.
So you're an artist, a rare thing to see. What's your story?
Well, not much, really. Vault 21 was my home. My dear home. I left it to explore the outside world. At first it was a marvel to behold. My inspiration flowed true, and its works caught Mr. House's attention. That's how I ended up in this place.
Well, it sounds as if you don't like this place. What's wrong with it?
I feel haunted by something terrible. Working in such a huge workshop often makes me shiver. I can't even leave the strip.
So is this fear of the outside world draining your inspiration?
Yes, I think so. But please, keep quiet about it. Without inspiration, I'm as good as a tumbleweed drifting in the barren wasteland.
At this point, if we told him earlier, after having tried to bully him earlier, that we were just kidding, we now find an option to say we were kidding about just kidding. We can lie and say, "You really believed I wasn't working for Mr. House? You chump."
I should have known that Mr. House wouldn't have sent just anybody. Anything I might offer to, well, encourage discretion?
Which dumps us back into that same bullying and intimidation dialogue tree. So instead we can pass a medicine check of 55 to say, "You know what, Michael? you exhibit clear symptoms of acute agoraphobia, fear of being around others and in large open spaces. This agoraphobia explains why Sheldon and his sister Sarah have not seen each other for so long. Even though they live right next to each other, they're too afraid to go outside and visit each other. Sarah suffers from the same condition that they both must have gotten growing up in Vault 21. We learned this when we talked with Sarah.
Okay, you're right. I hate going outside. It's almost impossible for me to step out of here.
Well, Sheldon, I think I can help with your agoraphobia.
Ah, an educated fellow. Now that is almost as rare as artistry. So, how can you help me regain my inspiration?
Well, several years of psychoanalysis and a few thousand caps a month should fix you.
What? Are you serious? I am an artist. I need inspiration, not therapy.
Well, I know this guy in Freeside really good at trepanation, which incidentally is a medieval quack science whereby a surgeon would drill a hole in a head to relieve pressure, which they thought would cure headaches. Anyway, Michael, trepanation, you'd be amazed at how...
Stop right there. I'm sorry, but there is nothing wrong with my brain. What I need is something that inspires ideas back into my work.
Come on, Michael, grow a pair and go out into the real world to find your inspiration.
What does this have to do with my... Never mind. I just can't go outside. Get it? There has to be another way.
Well, I didn't want it to come to this, because you don't exactly sound like the most interesting companion, but I suppose I could escort you into the wasteland. It's not so bad.
Thank you for the offer, but I think I really can't go to see... Wait a minute. I know, I don't have to necessarily be there to see it.
What do you mean?
Yes, that's it. I have a camera. It is old, but it should work. Perhaps you could bring me images of inspiring landmarks.
We can try and get some money out of this guy by saying, Mickey, photography is a risky business. This is going to cost you a lot.
There's an opportunity for profit anywhere, huh? Even if it means preying on the helpless. Okay, you shuckster. 150 caps each if they're good.
But there's no need, because even if we choose not to request money, he gives it to us freely if we accept the quest, which is why we didn't have to pass a barter check to ask him for more money. So instead we can say, all right, I'll help you. Do you have any landmarks in mind?
I've always wanted to see the dinosaur and its thermometer sign at Novak. Then there's the famous Bison Steve sign. The McCarran Airfield and the Helios 1 power station signs are of much interest to my work. Like the Sunset Sarsaparilla headquarters bottle.
Okay, you've got a deal. I'll return with the pictures.
Thank you. I really can't thank you enough for this. Please, get me all the pictures. I'll compensate you accordingly. Oh, and if you need more camera film, then just come back and I'll get it for you. Again, thank you.
With that, he gives us 24 rolls of camera film and a unique item, the Kodak R9000. And we begin the quest... Classic Inspiration. The Kodak R9000 appears in our Weapon tab. It doesn't do any damage, and the ammunition it requires is film. Once we equip it, we just lift it up right in front of our face. However, we hold it like we would hold a pistol. So if you have mods installed that change third-person animations like I do, it may look odd holding this camera. The camera itself is a beautiful little thing. It looks similar to, but far better than the camera scrap item we can get in the game. In this example, the scrap item is on the right, and the Kodak R9000 is on the left. It has a similar box, but it's different in that it has a big handle beneath the flash bulb that the player holds onto, and we see much more detail. There's some text on the flash bulb. We see R9000 beneath one of the lenses, and on the back, we see a label, Kodak R9000 Deluxe. This is a reference dating all the way back to the events of Fallout 1. If we head to the necropolis and then take a look at our local town map, we see a post-war photograph of the ruins now called Necropolis. If we look in the bottom right-hand corner, we see that this photograph was taken by the Kodak R9000. Just another little bit of wonderful continuity by Obsidian. I love it. Well, do you feel like traveling? Put on your tourist hat and grab a parasol, because we're about to go on a tour of the Mojave. Now I wanted to take all of these pictures during the day, and so we don't have to wait at every location we visit, we'll visit each location in order of closeness to New Vegas, where we start this quest. This means our first location is the Sunset Sarsaparilla headquarters. I covered this location in a dedicated video, which you can watch here if you're interested. Now, to take the perfect shot, we hold the right mouse button to zoom in, but boy does this zoom in. We want to make sure that we get the whole image here, so I'm gonna back on up. And it's so hard getting the whole bottle. Thankfully, we don't have to get the whole bottle. Michelangelo just wanted to see the sign. After all, he creates neon signs, and he's hoping to get inspiration for future ideas by looking at the pre-war signs created by long-dead artists. So as long as we get the Sunset Sarsaparilla sign within the frame, we can go ahead and take the picture. We know that we're successful if we get experience and if we see that one part of the quest has updated. Now, taking a picture doesn't actually add a picture to our inventory. We don't find any new notes. All that happens is the quest log updates. So, let's head to the next location, and that's going to be Camp McCarran. If we fast travel in, it's likely that the NCR will be under attack by nearby fiends, the noise of which may disrupt the creative process we need to capture the perfect image, so heading on over, we can assist the NCR in taking out the fiends. Once done, we can head back to the McCarran airfield. Standing the perfect distance away, well, that's good, but I really want to get those propellers in there. After all, those are neon signs as well. Perfect. With that, we get more experience and our quest log updates. For the next location, let's head on over to Helios 1. The Helios 1 sign is right above the front door. So zooming on in, we successfully capture the image. Next is Novak. Now, Dinky the dinosaur is huge. It may be difficult if we're trying to get the whole dinosaur into the shot, but we don't need to. So for example, here I am taking a shot of the dinosaur's head, but listen to what happens. I don't get experience, I don't update the quest. That's because Sheldon doesn't care about the dinosaur, he's interested in the big thermometer motel sign. So instead, taking a picture of the thermometer, there we go. The final sign he wants to see is the big, beautiful pre-war Bison Steve Hotel sign. So heading on over to Prim. Bingo. We can now take our new creative masterpieces back to Sheldon at Michelangelo's workshop.
Aha! The brave photographer returns. Good to see you.
I've got some fresh pictures for you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Just what I need. Thank you, brave one. Here's some compensation for your work.
He pays us individually for each photograph that we took. If we turn them all into him at once, he pays us a big lump sum. And once we've taken all of the pictures that he wants, he gives us an additional reward. We can say, I took all of the pictures you wanted. Wasn't there something about an additional reward?
You have earned it, my friend. Now I can finally unveil my masterpieces to the world, all thanks to you. Come visit me again sometime.
And with that, we complete Classic Inspiration. And we get to keep the Kodak R9000. We could use up the remaining film, but we can't turn any more pictures into Michelangelo. And since these photographs don't appear in our inventory as inventory items, there's really no point.
Well, all right. So, bye.
But we can bring it back to our player home and use it as a player home decoration. So there you have it. We've discovered Sarah Weintraub's long-lost brother, and he lives right next door, just a stone's throw away from Vault 21. What are your thoughts on Classic Inspiration, Michelangelo's Workshop, and the Kodak R9000? I love little touches and details like this that not only explain the infrastructure of New Vegas, here we learn where all of these beautiful neon signs come from, but also tie in with previous games. What a subtle nod to an easily overlooked aspect of Fallout 1. A great little touch. I publish a new Fallout video 6 days a week on a wide range of topics spanning all of the games. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss my next video, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. I've got a new shirt in the shop, folks. Lawbringer. we see a big pile of vaporized human ash upon which rests a finger. A perfect shirt for those who like to side with the regulators. As a companion to this, I've got Tap That Ash. And if for some reason you don't like either of those two text options, I've got a version with the image itself, along with a bunch of other shirts in my shop. So if you're interested in any of them, you can head on over to my shop by clicking the link in this video's description or by clicking here. If you like what I do, and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.